You're listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. She is passionate, direct, and sometimes a little sarcastic, but always gives you what you need to succeed in business. Now, here's your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 008, The Truth About Time Management with Mr. Work Smarter. If you're an entrepreneur who wants to take consistent, massive, focused action in your business and life, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. I'm excited about today's episode because you're going to meet my guest, Mr. Work Smarter. Now, I met my guest when he was invited by another guest of a competition that I had about productivity on Blab some time ago, and you'll hear more about that in the episode. But this guy, since then, and being on that competition that I hosted, I've been following him, and he's definitely up to something, and I think he's got some great content and information to share with us today. Mr. Work Smarter is a business consultant, motivational speaker, author, and productivity coach. He left the world of banking in 2016 to go it alone and help small business owners. As a productivity coach, he takes clients through the popular Work Smarter model and delivers a number of time management workshops and courses that showcase the best tools you can leverage to increase your personal and business productivity. Mr. Work Smarter is an in-demand keynote speaker and continues to mentor and motivate thousands of students across the world. When listening in on my conversation with Mr. Work Smarter, you'll discover 3 common productivity tips that are totally myths. The tasks that will give you the biggest return on your time, how self-awareness can make you more productive, which red lines keep Mr. Work Smarter motivated, how being a night owl can work to your advantage, and so much more. So let's dive right in and meet Mr. Work Smarter. Hi, Dennis, and welcome to Productivity Straight Talk. How are you doing today?
I am well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. I'm so glad you're here today with us. I met you some time ago virtually when you were recommended when I was looking for experts on a Blab, and it's so funny, Blab seems so long ago now, a Blab episode where I was doing kind of like a competition in where everyone was sharing their top productivity tips, and you were our winner, right?
Yep, I was very happy about that. And that was very strange, but it was a fantastic experience.
Yeah, and you were voted by the audience members that were listening to the Blab that said that you got like resounding claps and praises and stuff like that. And so since then, I've been following what you're doing, and I really love what you're doing from afar because where do you live? I'm here in Las Vegas, Nevada, United States, and you're in London, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, so I've been following you, and I just really like what you have going on. I like your messaging, and so I certainly wanted to have you on as one of my first guests on Productivity Straight Talk. And today, I'm super excited to be talking to you about the myths that are preventing people from getting shit done. Wow, that is great, right? And so before we dive into that, can you tell me a little bit more about how you became Mr. Work Smarter and as a consultant, a speaker, and a productivity coach? Tell us a little bit about your history.
Okay, so I'll take you back into my university times. And a lot of people, it was a discovery for me. I discovered that I had dyslexia. And for those of you that don't know what dyslexia is, it's a learning difficulty, whether that's writing, spelling or pronunciation of certain words. I had a number of learning difficulties, and because of that, I was always figuring out or trying to explore ways I could work smarter to keep up with my peers or even exceed my peers. So that's where the name came from, because I was always looking for technology tools to help manage my time, help manage my workload, and ensure I get things done. So that's where the name triggered. And then I eventually started sharing all the tools with my friends and family. And it was like, Dennis, where did you find all that? And I was like, yeah. So it was just fun at first. And then I thought, you know what, let me start sharing this online. So I started on Instagram. And then just through sharing my productivity tools or tips, a number of people started to follow me and show interest. And I just kept on building it from there.
Yeah, you're definitely doing something right. When I'm looking at you and watching you, I'm like, yes, he's on it. And so thank you for sharing that with us. And you know what? I'm glad that you do have a story. So your story came from necessity of having a learning disability. And then now you've been able to transition that into an entire career and helping people with or without learning disabilities just simply work smarter.
Exactly.
Okay, awesome. And so can you tell us what kind of topics that you talk about when you do your speaking?
Okay, so yeah, I do a number of public talks as well, and it varies. So I do a lot of public talks at universities. You not call it? What do you not call it in the US universities? It's is it high schools or
College.
college? Yeah, that's it. You don't call it college. And funny enough, talking about college, I actually went to New York during the US election week to speak at Columbia University, or Barack Obama's university.
Uh-huh.
And the talk was on time management tools that students can use to help manage their time and prepare for exams.
That's excellent. Yeah, I did see, because you did share your story on social media. I saw you were there. And most recently, you were in LA as well, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. And I'm, funny enough, currently talking to you from LA at the moment.
Oh, are you? Oh, that's great. Look at you, world tour. Well, great. So I have a question for you. Well, let me tell you this. I often speak with my clients about how they're screwing their productivity without, necessarily knowing it. They may be unintentionally doing behaviors or habits that are really sabotaging their productivity. So tell me how you may have screwed your productivity in the past.
Okay, let me be totally honest. I'm a YouTube fan. I'm always watching a number of YouTube tutorials or motivating stuff on YouTube, if it's Gary Vee, Eric Thompson. And unfortunately, I would write my to-do list down and I'm ready to go to work. And then somehow I would find myself on YouTube and I'll end up watching so many YouTube videos and come like the next 2-3 hours, I'm like, what have I actually done? I haven't actually started doing my work. So I get literally distracted and end up watching a number of YouTube videos. Even though they're very insightful and valuable, I haven't actually got the work that I need to get done. That's the problem.
Right. Oh, that's hilarious. Well, at least it's not cat videos. It really is something that's pouring into you and making you a little bit better and motivating you and hopefully motivating you to get back to work.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, before we go any further, I want to make sure my listeners stop screwing their productivity. Want to reduce your stress? How about grow your business? Wish you had more time for family, friends, hobbies, and everything else you enjoy? Think you can't have all three? You're wrong. You just need to stop screwing your productivity. Text SCREW to 444-999 to receive your free copy of 10 ways you're screwing your productivity. Or you can download your free copy at theproductivityspecialist.com/screw. SCREW. Now let's get back to Straight Talk with Mr. Work Smarter. We are going to talk about a few myths that are stopping people from getting shit done. And one of the myths that he shares that I really liked was the myth that to get more accomplished, you have to get up early. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why you believe that's a myth?
Yeah, because every time I listen, so when I listen to people speak, everyone always talks about, get up early, in order to be successful, you have to wake up at 5 o'clock. And I just thought, that's not necessarily true. I could get up at 10 o'clock, but go to bed at 3 a.m. And it's about what you do within the time that you're awake. Like, a lot of people have this belief that, if you wake up early, automatically you're going to be productive. I can understand that waking up early does help in terms of it might be quiet, people may not be awake. However, the same process can apply in the evening. And I'm a night owl. I enjoy working in the evening. That's when I'm most productive.
That's awesome. I have switched back and forth throughout my life being a night owl or a morning person, and both served me well in the time that was a right schedule for me. So I 100% agree. I often have clients that say, I know I have to be up early to be productive, and they're beating themselves up. And I always stop them and say, what matters most is that you're being authentic to yourself. And when we start beating ourselves up on what we should be doing, that's totally counterproductive. So when you shared with us that it's a myth to get more done, you have to get up early, I couldn't agree with you more.
You touched on a really good point because it's about self-awareness. It depends on your daily habits and what works for you. different things work for different people. And I've learned that, listen, if I know that during a later time, that's when I've got more energy, then fantastic. That's when I'm going to focus on the most important things.
Absolutely. I have found I'm a big believer in the Miracle Morning book. I love it. I think it's very valuable. But at times, I have actually recommended to my clients that the gold in the Miracle Morning for some is just having that routine where you're pouring into yourself and doing your exercising or you're meditating in your silent time. And for some of my clients, that's best at night to do at night for themselves. And so instead of trying to fit yourself into a mold, you're able to take the best of the resources that are around you and make them work for you. And so I think this is one of the things that you, like you're saying, is that you really just need to be authentic to yourself. And what matters most is identifying when you have the highest energy level to get done what matters most.
100% we agree with you with it. You said it perfect.
Awesome. And Mr. Work Smart, you believe that there's another myth out there, and it's that productive people work from a to-do list. Now, this intrigued me because I am a massive proponent of a to-do list. So I want to hear what you have to say on why that's a myth.
Firstly, I want to make something clear. I do also use a to-do list. However, the reason why I call it a myth is because people believe that once you have a to-do list, automatically you're going to get things done. And I want people to not get caught up in that, because sometimes having a to-do list, especially when you write a long to-do list, it can be overwhelming, and it can actually stop you from doing things because you're thinking like, where do I start? It's too much. So me personally, the way I work is, firstly, I only write 3 things. I work in threes. I like to know that these are the 3 most important things that I need to do. And if I complete them, then yes, I may explore other things that I want to complete. And then secondly, I schedule my to-do list. And the way I schedule it is by putting the task that I need to complete on my calendar to serve as a reminder.
I do the same thing. I time block out my high priority activities as well so that those projects don't seem to either never get done or they take too much time. And so when I find myself time blocking, I say, okay, I'm giving myself 1 hour to get this task done. And then I have like an immediate goal that I'm shooting for. I love time blocking specific high value tasks.
Yes, I'm a big fan of time blocking, and as you may be aware, obviously the Pomodoro technique is a very common technique that many people use where they focus for a specific time. And as you said, for you it's 1 hour. Some people maybe 25 minutes, 45 minutes. It works for different people. And then, you treat yourself and reward yourself with whether that's going to the park for a few minutes or, listening to music. I think that's a great way to get things done.
Well, I got a sneak preview into a book that you just wrote, and so I know we're going to share with our audience a little more about that, but I have a quote here out of your book that I thought was awesome. It says, "Time seems to be an infinite resource, yet the reality slaps us in the face, and we come to the realization that that's not true." And I could not agree with you more, because if we spent our time like we spend our money, meaning budgeting it, seeing it as something that is of value, I think we'd all be better off with our time management.
Yep.
And
honestly,
the kicker is you can make more money. You can't make more time.
Yes, that's the thing. And you honestly, and this is where I always remind people, time is the greatest commodity. You just can't get it back. And it's about managing the time that you have, that you're in on Earth. Make sure that you are doing the things that you want to do.
Awesome. I have a question regarding something that you said that you work in threes. So as a business owner, I can imagine, like myself, your to-do list and our listeners, your to-do list is really long. So how do you choose your 3 items that you're going to work on each day?
I've learned to ask myself one important question. Which goal is going to get me closer to my ultimate goal? Or secondly, which goal is going to bring me an income? Because that's, to be quite frank, as an entrepreneur, that's a very important goal. Like, I need to be able to make an income to live on. And unfortunately, sometimes I get into the habit, and I'll put my hands up, get into the habit of focusing on very tasks that basically, content tasks are not really going to bring me income. Tasks that, yes, I can build my knowledge and skills, that's fantastic. But these tasks are not really going to bring me an income. So I've learned to think about tasks that are going to bring me income, whether that's me doing a few calls to potential sales, whether that's me calling a client, telling them about other opportunities. I'm always thinking, okay, what can I do first thing in the morning that's going to potentially bring me income, rather than thinking, what can I do just for the sake of doing it? And I feel like once you make that switch, that mind frame switch where you're focusing on tasks that's going to bring you income, you'll see a lot of results.
I agree with you. And I think that is great advice for our listeners. So if you may have missed that, the golden nugget is that he is determining his top 3 activities for the day. And what he puts priority on, Mr. Work Smart, is the income producing activities. Because we can all get so super busy in being busy and answering emails and, maybe returning phone calls and shuffling paperwork and updating our marketing and our branding and our website. And the list can go on and on as entrepreneurs. But at the end of the day, we're going to be out of business if we don't do what matters most, which is revenue generating activities. So that is a really simple way for our listeners to learn how to choose what their highest value activity is.
Thank you for articulating that very well, because that's exactly the message I was trying to convey.
You did. All I did was reiterate it. You did a great job. I love that. I love that you could have said anything and that you really did narrow in on the revenue generating activities. You know what I find interesting is that it seems so simple, right? Like, okay, I'm going to identify our revenue generating activity. And yet those are the items that most of us procrastinate on or put off to later. And yet it's the one that will give us the most return on our time.
Scary, because and as I said, even us, as you know, sometimes we fall into that habit as well, and it's so scary when you think about it. It's like, we know we need to do this, but yet we would rather do the easy tasks that, as you said, are not really going to bring us the income.
Right. Well, awesome. Well, I love that you're so transparent and sharing that with us, because I, like you, I'm not perfect. You and I are both so passionate about productivity and sharing with entrepreneurs and sharing our strategies and methods that work, but we make a choice every day to be productive or not productive. My son even knows that, because I say it so often. My son's 6 years old, and I say, you know what? It boils down to a choice. And sometimes, some days, that choice is a lot harder than others, but to just acknowledge that it is our choice, that we're either going to do our highest value activity or we're going to keep ourselves busy and kind of like the grunt work and feel like we're doing something, but we're really not. So I love that. We kind of went off on a tangent, but that was so connected to the fact that it is a myth that you're productive if you work off of a to-do list, because if it's the wrong to-do list, you're not productive.
Exactly.
So I'm so excited to talk to you about my next myth that you shared, which is every minute you spend planning saves 10 in execution. And I want to hear what your take on that is, because I'm a planner. This girl likes to plan. And I have a feeling you're going to tell me I plan too much, but let's hear what you have to say.
Well, firstly, that quote, every minute you spend planning saves 10 in execution, it was a quote by Brian Tracy, who you know as well. And he's a fantastic guy. And listen, I listen to him as well. Like, he's a very, very intelligent man. And not to say what he's saying is untrue. I'm just worried that people will read into that and think, okay, let me plan, because it's going to save me 10 minutes. What I was trying to say is that, listen, there's nothing wrong with planning. And I still plan, but over-planning honestly can kill productivity in a sense. It will stop you from actually getting things done, because I've learned in the past, when I've tried to plan things and I'm trying to perfect it as well. This is the art of trying to be a perfectionist. Like, you somehow allude to reasons why it's not ready to go. Like this book I wrote, I could have, and even now I've looked at it and I've read it and I'm like, I want to change this and change that. And if you do that, that's a really bad habit, if that makes sense. It will stop you from actually letting things out or releasing books or getting your work complete.
I couldn't agree again. So I have a mentor. His name's Darren LaCroix, and we actually had him on already in one of the earlier episodes. But one of his quotes that I take with me and share with everyone is, done is more profitable than perfect.
Exactly.
And the reason he shared that with me is because I needed it. Like, I've got that perfection bug. I'm not saying I'm perfect, nor am I saying anything that I send out in the world is perfect. But I can just keep going over and over and try and tweak it. And then what happens is you don't get it out and you're spending way too much time that doesn't make a difference. And now I know that intellectually, but I'm saying this because I know that there are many listeners that are saying, yes, that's me too. Like, I overplan, paralysis by analysis. I overanalyze everything. And so this is really good. This is, I hear you saying, if I'm correct, Mr. Work Smart, is that it's a fine line between planning and reaping the benefits of planning. And then once you go over that line, now you're in the zone of you're not getting any more return for the time investment in planning.
Yeah, my best advice is literally set a time that you're going to plan. And then once that deadline comes, whether that's an hour spending planning, say stop and get the work done. And the best thing and the best approach is that as you get things done, of course you can make progress, but if you don't let it out, then you're never going to know. And you must have heard of the 80-20 rule. So like sometimes 20% of our efforts is going to result to 8% of the results. And sometimes the little nitty-gritty things that we complain about, maybe one spelling mistake or we forgot to put this there, it's not really going to add that much value, but we really think it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we need to stay in our 20% zone, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly. What is that? What's that 20% you need to really focus on? That's going to really make a difference. Stop thinking everything needs to be 100%. There's no such thing as perfection. You can always look at ways to improve things, and there's nothing wrong with making progress, but the key is just let it out and keep making progress. I know I keep saying the same words, but that's the truth.
Yeah, it's
just do
true.
it and
so
keep making progress.
That's awesome. So the way I say it is, how can you take consistent, massive, focused action? And that's what I help my clients do, is that there's so many reasons and ways that we as entrepreneurs don't take consistent, massive, focused action. And this is just one of them, getting stuck in the planning phase. And so you're right. It's a myth that the more planning you do, the more productive you are.
Exactly.
Awesome. So I have loved this. We've been talking all about the truth about time management and the myths that are preventing people from getting shit done. And I know, because of our time together and our listeners listening in, that we have all been able to learn a little bit, debunk some of these myths, and now we are able to take some massive, consistent action in our business. So I thank you so much, but we're not done. Before we end, I know our listeners would probably like to find out more about you. Tell us how they can find you.
My website, www.mrworksmarter.com. However, if you want to keep up to date with all my content, my Work Smarter hacks, tips, motivational tools, then check out my Instagram page, which is at Mr. Work Smarter. I'm also on Twitter as well. And also on YouTube. Yeah, I'm starting to do more content on YouTube, so look out for that.
That's great, because if we want to delay doing our tasks and get on YouTube, we should be listening to you to get some motivation, right?
Exactly. There's nothing wrong. As long as you're getting some inspiration, that's the most important thing.
That's excellent. And I believe you have something awesome for our listeners here today, too.
Yes. I've written my first book, which I'm really excited about.
You took massive focused action to get this book out in the world, right?
Exactly. And if I had sat on it and tried to perfect it, then I would have never got it done. I had to set myself a deadline and actually stick to it. Because, look, I've looked at the book, and of course, as it's done, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I wish I'd changed this or done that. Like, just get it done. You can also do another version if you need to in the future, but I'm happy I've got it out. I'm really happy with the content, and it's all about the truth about time management. It covers the myths that people believe are true around time management, and I give real practical steps and actions you can take to increase your productivity.
Excellent. And we only touched on a couple of these today, and he has many, many more in his book. And I just want to just show the correlation between you making your goal, hitting your deadline, writing your book, and now we get to talk and we had this interview. Because had you not, maybe this opportunity wouldn't have come up. And so for our listeners, that's a lesson learned, is that action creates more action, creates opportunities. And it's kind of a snowball effect. So I'm so glad you got this out in the world. And I'm even happier that our listeners are going to get an opportunity to go purchase that on Amazon. And I will have the link in the show notes on theproductivityspecialist.com. That's where you can find all the show notes. Or you can just search on Amazon, The Truth About Time Management.
That's correct. Yes, it's going to be available in the Amazon Kindle store.
Amazon Kindle store. Okay, great. Awesome. Well, one last thing before we go, Mr. Work Smarter. I want to know, how do you take consistent, massive, focused action in your business?
One of the things I do is write my 3 most important things I need to accomplish the night before I go to bed. So before I go to bed, I say, what is the 3 most important things I need to do that will get me closer to my goal? And this is why I talk about it's going to bring me income. That's one of my most important goals, is to bring in substantial income. So I would write the 3 most important tasks. So when I wake up in the morning, after I do my meditation, my prayers, my normal morning rituals, I'll straight away go ahead and tackle it. And the reason that works for me is because I believe a lot of people fall into the habit of waking up and just going with the day, not really having any focus and just kind of doing things as it comes rather than planning and saying, this is what I need to do. And another thing that really helps me is by listening to uplifting music or motivational videos in the morning, just to give me a boost of energy or uplift me. It gets me pumped and ready to go. And that's one of the things that works for me. And I don't know about you, but when I write things down, a lot of people use to-do list apps. And I've got them as well, but I've now started to write my to-do list, my 3 things I need to do on my notepad, because I feel great when I can tick it off. You see that red line over it. It gives me that boost to say, I want to do the next thing now. And I want to go to bed knowing that I've done that. It's such a great feeling, honestly. So, yeah, that's what I do, and it works for me.
I love it. So the way that you take consistent, massive, focused action, I heard a few things. One is rituals. Yeah. You have a morning routine. Yeah. You're always pouring into yourself motivational books or videos and such to get yourself in the right mindset. And you are planning your day the night before so that you're setting the intention and you can get right to it first thing in the morning.
That is correct, Amber.
That is an awesome 3 combination. I'm sure that there's a few others in there that I didn't reiterate, but that is great. And that's why we call you Mr. Work Smarter. Thank you so much for being on the Productivity Straight Talk podcast and sharing with us your knowledge and experience with the myths that need to be debunked for entrepreneurs.
And I want to say something. I really want to thank you because you may not know it, but when I entered the competition, the productivity tips event that you hosted and I won, I think that's when it started for me. That's when it gave me more confidence I can actually do this. So I'm really happy that you created that platform and it allowed me to, just kick off from there. Because ever since then, you just pushed me along the way.
Oh my gosh, that is so awesome. I don't know if that video still is around. I know that I think I saved it to YouTube though, because Blab's not around. And so if it is, listeners, you'll be able to see this in the show notes. I will link out to it. I'm sure, knowing myself, that I did keep a copy of it. But you guys can go there, and I rallied and called together what I believed is the top 10 thought leaders on productivity and asked each of them to share their top productivity tip. And so that was really cool. I love hearing that that's what really launched you into being able to share this message with the world. I mean, obviously the world, right? You live in London, you've been to New York and LA, and next thing I know, you'll be in my back door. So this is great. If you ever make it to Las Vegas, we'll have to definitely get together for coffee.
I might be there for my birthday soon, so I'll let you know.
Oh, well, if you're coming to Vegas for your birthday, I don't think you're here for coffee, but if you are, then I would love to meet up with you. But thank you so much for your time. Well, wasn't that a great interview with Mr. Work Smarter? One of the things that come up for me that I often tell my clients, and remind myself of all the time, is that we really need to be authentic to who we are, honor who we are, and that productivity needs to be in alignment with who we are. It does not need to be a battle that we fight against. And so I'm so glad that Mr. Work Smarter really debunked a lot of those myths and really laid it on the line, letting us know that what we may think productivity is really isn't. And if you have not already done so, go back and listen to episode 001, where I debunk the common myths about productivity. It's a solo episode where I just break it down and tell you, in my opinion, the biggest myths that I've personally seen out there with productivity. While I've loved having you listen to Productivity Straight Talk, I need to be straight with you. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So based on what you learned, what will you take action on today? Honestly, you have just spent 30 minutes with me. This is time that I value and I cherish that you've chosen to listen to me. And so since you've chosen to listen to me, I'm asking you to invest in yourself. What action will you take today based on what you learned? To share your actionables and receive support, guidance, and motivation from entrepreneurs just like you, join us on the inside of Productivity Straight Talk private community. You can join us for free by going to productivitycommunity.com. Again, you can join us on the inside for free for actionables, support, and like-minded entrepreneurs just like you. So that's my straight talk for you today. And until next time, have a productive week.